Let's do this.
Oh shoot, I have a senior plan here.
That's cute.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Colivers Club. Here today I'm with Kate Shifman. How are you, Kate?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, César. We're here also at the Nomad World Fest
Yes.
in sunny, very, very, very warm Albufeira in
Yeah.
the south of Portugal.
Yeah, and it's funny because we chose to wear black today, but it's
Yes.
so hot that maybe we should change clothes. And then after the podcast, go to the beach.
The
Because
beach is a
it's-
good idea. Yes.
Yes.
You can take the girl out of Brooklyn, but you can't take the Brooklyn or New York out of the girl, hence the black.
We actually, I think we met in Bansko Nomad Fest last year. It was a very life-changing experience for me. And I noticed that your talk was super interesting because you were merging digital nomadism, this interior design, and architecture. And it's all part of this project of yours, AOMA Coliving. What can you tell us about it?
So what I always preach is that the spaces where we spend all of our time in, from co-working spaces, residential housing, airports, train stations, schools, etc., they don't support us as humans on our quest to be happier, healthier selves. Most of these spaces are done, built and designed with kind of the bottom line in mind, instead of us as end users. And so what we end up doing is spending 90% of our lives in places that don't support our health, professional, social, spiritual needs. So I decided to change that. No small feat, but one space at a time. And so IOMA is a blueprint of the way we could build and the way we could live to be more in harmony with ourselves, each other, and nature.
Oh, wow. And it's all converging in a specific place in Portugal, Ericeira, right?
Yeah.
Why Ericeira?
So Ericeira is a magical little surf town. It's got a vibe. It's one of those places where I meet people and they said, I came here for 3 days and it's been 3 years and I moved. And this is a story that keeps happening. It's a very beautiful little coastal village, 40 minutes north of Lisbon. So Lisbon is becoming really an important startup and innovation capital of Europe. And being 40 minutes away from that is really, really important. It's also one of the world surfing reserves. So it's a very important surf spot on the surfing circuit, like professional surfing circuit. And what happens is, what I've noticed is that surfers tend to overlap a lot with the location-independent lifestyle. And so Ericeira draws these kinds of people and has been even before COVID, before the explosion of digital nomadism. I got there in 2018 and I already saw that happening. So a lot of surfers would come there, make it one of their bases or move there or kind of continue to return because again, it's a great spot. There's, I think, 5 or 6 different beaches like along the coast, like right next to Ericeira with different waves. The lifestyle is beautiful. So it's perfect for a digital nomad location-independent lifestyle. Obviously, IOMA is built for the transient, people who don't have a home. And so we decided that our first space is going to be there. And the plan is to build a small kind of curated collection of these kinds of spaces across the Iberian Peninsula.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Also, the name Ericeira, it draws you to this relaxing mood. So it goes on brand, I don't imagine Piedra del Cagar, no? I don't know, like another name that doesn't really go fit with the brand. So
It's got a vibe and it's got a flow to it.
Absolutely. And also AOMA, right? AOMA is the name of this collection, right? Which will start in Ericeira. And I'm very interested also in the funding process because I know you come from photography and you've been dabbling in a lot of industries and traveled a lot. So yeah, the funding process, which I saw recently, that we talked about, is super interesting. And I want to explain to our audience what is it about your funding.
Yeah, of course. So what started with like a girl with a dream and a building actually transformed, and it's been a transformational experience for me personally as a human being into a truly community project. So in the past couple of years, we've had a bunch of investors come in. Some friends, some people from the nomad community, other people from around Portugal, around the world, who were kind of taken with the idea of building the infrastructure for the location-independent lifestyle. But the minimum to come in has been quite high at 20K. So the minimum investment has been 20K. And that's how we've raised our entire round now. And it's done and it's great. And I'm very, very happy. But something didn't sit right with me, because as it's becoming more of a community project, people have come to me and said, yeah, I love the project, but I don't have 20K to join. And so as we were about to close the round, I said, you know what, why don't we allocate the last 50K to truly a community round and throw it on a crowdfunding platform on WeFunder, so that people can invest from like as little as $100. And so now my conscience is clear in a way. It's a truly democratic and inclusive project. So the crowdfunding is open. We already had 5K committed, so there's 44 something left. We opened last week. So anyone can come in and be part of this project from as little as $100. There are different benefits depending on the size of the investment, but everyone gets a community membership, which means you can come and you get preferential room rates as a member of the community. You also take advantage of the collective kind of creativity and power and knowledge of this community. And then, of course, with different layers, levels of investment, you get co-working memberships or free days and free weeks, depending on what it is. But now everyone can actually enjoy AOMA and be part of it, and be part of kind of, the real estate success story of Ericeira, and, building infrastructure for this lifestyle that we all believe in.
Absolutely. And actually, before you became a digital nomad, you were traveling into hotels, right? For 7 years, more or less.
Yeah, when you're like getting out of college, you think, oh, my career is gonna go like this, right? And then when you look back, 10, 15 years, you see like this winding path. So at some point in my life, I ended up in London because I fell in love with the guy. And he was a photographer, and he said, hey, let's start a photo agency. I was like, yeah, sure. I was like 20, It's like, yeah, sure, that sounds great. So we ended up actually having a very successful press photo agency, which took us around the world for 7 years, like 360 days out of the year, living out of hotels as we were supporting our photographers. And that was when I realized how much space has really affected my emotional, physical, professional well-being and performance. Because one day you wake up in a place and you're full of energy, and another day you feel oppressed, you feel irritated, like low energy, and everything is the same. All the other things were the same, like, traveling, all day long and all year long. So I'm always tired, I'm always stressed. Like, that was unfortunately the kind of base layer. But some spaces supported me, and I really felt that, and I felt energy from my immediate environments, and some spaces put me down. And so for quite a few years, I was thinking about it, and eventually when I moved to Portugal, I thought, okay, I want to look into this. I had this idea of creating a space for knowledge and creativity, and then this idea of kind of wellness through art and design kept nagging me. And so I combined the two into a community space, but also with an accommodation, hospitality element that embodied like all of these principles.
And what lessons from these 7 years of living in hotels have you don't want to replicate in your co-living? Like, what are some things that this I want to change? No minibars, for example, or just 2 minibars.
They're not important. So what we're building is also different from a hotel, right?
Yeah.
So what we're building is a place for people who are location dependent to spend, a week to a few weeks to a few months. It's very different from building for, pure kind of tourist accommodation where people come for a week, or from long-term, residential housing. So that's kind of the thing. Like, this is why we're building from scratch, and that's why it's taking so long, because I'm really optimizing the experience to this location flexible lifestyle midterm. For example, Communal kitchen is the soul of the space. I've stayed at a variety of co-living spaces, including like Habit, which is like the biggest co-living company in the world, and small ones, big ones. But the kitchen is where people come to really spend their time. And so we're very conscious. There will be, you can have your coffee in your room, like you'll have your like V60, no single-use pods like that is not going to be allowed on the property. But you can have your V60, you can have your French press, like whatever you want in your room, because I think it's really important for people to have the moment in the morning to have their coffee alone. But then the cooking happens together. It's a huge kitchen with like double of all of the appliances, but that's the soul, right? Other things, I mean, the list of grievances about various kinds of stupid things in hotel rooms is very, very long, especially as a woman.
Let's go through it.
Okay, also as a woman, the lighting that you have in your bedroom or in your bathroom where you do your makeup is super important. For example, they like to do this kind of mood lighting now, which is nice. You don't always want to have these like huge overhead lights, but if I'm painting my face, I better have really good lighting. Otherwise, when I come out, people cross the street when they see me, So that's, basically having a variety of lighting controls is important. Talking about light temperature, color temperature of the lighting, super important. So in the morning, and during the day when we want to be more active, we want to have higher light temperature. So like, maybe like 5,000 kelvins, like 3.5 to 5,000 kelvins. So this is the light that is wider and it's brighter. So for your co-working space, you want that kind of light. You don't want that light for your bedroom. So you want like something that is warmer, a little bit more yellow, let's put it this way, and like 2,000 to 3,500 kelvins. So that when you walk in, you already start to relax and wind down for the evening. Temperature controls are very, very important. And it's not just AC, because AC can be very, very harsh. We need it sometimes in hot climates, but talking about insulation, for example, like natural insulation lets the building breathe. Quality building materials let the building breathe. We're building from wood and we're using cork insulation.
No plastic then.
No. Because, and that's also actually better for the building because that prevents mold. And so my observations and learnings range from like really kind of like, construction side to like, we're going to have, hair dryers for women, and we're going to have proper mirrors and also all the travel conveniences, because for people who travel all the time, you don't want to drag all of these little things like all the cables and everything, and monitors. So I want to have everything for people that, that's optimized to their lifestyle. There's actually a framework I created for this.
Which is called Thrive, right?
Thrive, yeah, the Thrive framework. And it's along 6 different kind of like modules, from community to movement to comfort, etc. And it talks through like the different things we need in order to know whether the space is really going to support all of our needs. Another important one actually is connection to nature and also access to quality food. So a lot of the times I see, especially retreats in very, very remote locations. And it sounds really great on paper, but when you are in a house with like 10, 15 people in a villa that's like, I don't know, a half-hour drive from like the nearest little village, and you have one car to share, that's when problems start. And so for me, I've identified like you need to be within a 15-minute walk from a source of quality food. So whether it's a supermarket, whether you can walk to like a nearby village, or if you're in the city, it needs to be like, the supermarket nearby. But in order to support your health, vitality, you need to have fresh food easily accessible. And then green spaces. So with AOMA, biophilia is the study, it's a design discipline that essentially looks at people as biological organisms.
Makes sense, because we are biological organisms.
Exactly, yes. So not just like users of a space, but like we are humans and we're nature. We often forget that.
A lot, right?
Yeah.
We're digital nomads, but sometimes analog.
Yeah, but like as humans, we crave nature, and I think our industrialized lives have made us forget about that. But we need our bodies, minds, and souls need nature. And so in AOMA, we're bringing nature inside. So every bedroom has obviously an ensuite bathroom, but every bathroom has a skylight so that when you shower, you're directly kind of like with the, with the sun,
that's so nice.
open sky.
Okay.
I'm going to do something that normally they never do in hotels. I'm going to put live, plants in the bedrooms. It's a little bit more work from a housekeeping standpoint, but for me, it's really important. And obviously, we have a huge garden with like 2 ponds and a swimming pool and lots of spaces for people to be, alone in small groups and larger groups. So really thinking about, bringing nature in, because that's what recharges us.
Absolutely. Kate, the marketing and the branding for AOMA, it's super on point. You also mentioned that it's an eco-luxurious co-living, which I haven't seen many of those with the idea of the community, because I feel like when we think about luxurious co-livings, it feels like very elitist, very exclusive, and not so inclusive, let's say. However, you want to do both.
Yeah.
How?
So look, true luxury is not expensive. True luxury is nature. True luxury is quality materials. True luxury is really connection to ourselves and the outside world. That's another thing that I learned actually through all my travels, because sometimes I ended up in cheap hotels, sometimes I ended up in super expensive hotels. And true luxury is not in like gold-plated toilets. It's
No?
shocker.
What?
Because if you really break down the feeling of luxuriousness, it's about relaxation and it's about connection, true connection. And it's very, very, it's inexpensive to create that. We don't need, marble all over the place and expensive materials. We need quality materials. We need natural materials, of course. But you can actually create a luxurious feeling with biophilia, with quality materials, and with thoughtful design. So for us, you're going to be living essentially in a little oasis in this beautiful, beautiful garden villa in a wooden house that is very thoughtfully designed for you, and art. So every bedroom is based around an artwork by a Portuguese artist, and so the interior is picked kind of like color-wise and style-wise around the artwork. And so again, it's connection, right? It's connection to something bigger than you, to the world, making you as a human feel as part of the larger universe, but in a very intimate way.
Wow, that's super nice, no? A lot of co-livings, they number their rooms 1, 2, 3, and it feels like impersonal. Other ones, they go further, no, and name it like places, but you want to bring it even further, no? Without, okay, maybe
Yeah.
the name is, the room is named after an artist, but even the room is around this artist, and
Yeah.
wow, that's amazing. And what are 3 tips you will share with people when doing thoughtful design for co-livings?
Think about the range of experiences and behaviors that your residents and guests will have throughout their day or throughout their stay. To me, I think that's the most important thing, right? So it's all about user behavior. So if I wake up in the room, what do I need? Do I need like a big piece of furniture? Not really. I would like more spaciousness, for example. Then there are times when we need to be alone. There are times when we need to be alone, but with the view of like something moving around. This is why we work from cafes, There are times when we really want to be like functional and go to a co-working space. And then, times when we want to like kind of gather in a small group or a big group. And so we're designing for all of this. And that's what I would suggest too. So both the work time and the leisure time, we are designing for the range of kind of like experiences, behaviors, and modalities, from solo to small group to a larger group, indoors and in the garden as well. So that's my first tip, and I think that's really important. Another tip for co-working or co-living spaces is thoughtful integration of residents and people from the outside. For us, we have a fairly large space, and so we built our co-working space it's 2 floors, it's quite big. So we're going to be able to invite people from the outside, people from Ericeira in as well. And then, integrate the local community. And especially, for me, it's very important to have positive impact. We are in Portugal where the influx of foreigners has, affected housing prices and affected the cost of living for the local people. And so what we are doing at AOMA is we're going to be working with local producers, veggies, produce, etc., to deliver food baskets to the co-living, to divert our residents' money from the big supermarkets to the little guys, to the local guys. So I really strongly suggest other co-living spaces to think about ways they can give back, but tangibly, to the local community. It could be through education. It could be because we have a wealth of knowledge, all the time.
Like skill shares or
Exactly. Yeah.
open days, for example, to use the co-working perhaps, which is nice, no? Because then you integrate even further the communities.
Yeah, so for example, I run these co-working and spa, co-working and tennis events for like almost 2 years now in Ericeira, and we actually got an award for the most integrated expat initiative in Ericeira, because every time, yes, we have our regulars who are expats and nomads, but actually like lots of Portuguese people come to co-work with us, and it becomes like a really, really nice integrated experience.
Absolutely. And I think merging the two worlds means also more opportunities. For example, I'm a software developer, so I always show what I do to people because I think, in my case, software development feels like a privilege because it lets me travel the world, work remotely, and it's amazing. So if people are more exposed to these new ideas, they might be feeling like, okay, I can do this. Let's do it,
A couple of years ago, Gonzalo and I were invited to an innovation conference at a high school in São Jorge, Azores.
Yeah, Gonzalo from the Nomad World,
Yes,
right?
yes, the founder of Nomad World,
Founder of
exactly.
Nomad World.
I think everyone knows Gonzalo.
Yeah, Gonzalo, of course, Gonzalo.
And so we did talks about kind of the professions you can have, and the freedom digital work allows you to have. So he did a talk in Portuguese, I did a talk in English. The next day, the person who organized this conference comes to me and she's like, what did you tell these kids? Because their parents called me and said, my daughter doesn't want to be a stewardess anymore, and my son doesn't want to go into construction. They all want to go into tech and become digital nomads. This works, this transition really works. And I'm not saying that everyone needs to go into digital work,
No, of course.
but digital work is the way to revitalize rural areas.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's what I really strongly believe in. And I think the digital nomad movement needs to make that happen. I think it's probably going to be the thing to unlock the redevelopment, the thoughtful redevelopment of rural areas.
Wow, that thing is a key point, absolutely. And there's so many initiatives right now where they want to revitalize this. For example, in Spain, we have a lot of problems with España vaciada, which means that no one wants to go to these super rural villages.
Yeah.
However, me as a digital nomad, if there's a community there, a small community even, Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
then that's everything I need, right?
Yeah.
For example, Juan Barbet from
I love what he's doing. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love that he has a t-shirt that says Tengo Pueblo, which means I have a village, no? Like, very proud about it. So, yeah, I think it's an important aspect because I feel like the vision that a lot of people have of digital nomads is like, oh, we bring gentrification and we are not integrated in the community. However, in the circles that I'm moving through, it feels like that's not the case. I mean, I don't know much about gentrification and how to solve that problem, but I think there's a lot of ideas to interact with the community. So
yeah, and look, this cannot just be solved with one co-working space coming to like a rural village, but this has to be at multiple levels, on the government level, on the regional level. There needs to be infrastructure for this, but the idea of essentially kind of funneling people out of major cities into rural areas and creating the secondary, tertiary kind of hubs that are supported by digital work, where everyone else, your baker, your construction worker, and all of these, all of these other functions exist because they're being paid by the people working in digital functions. I think that's important. I think we're going to solve a lot of societal problems with this approach.
Yeah, and we can even go further, no? Why instead of co-living, we don't have co-villages?
Yeah, well, yeah, there are a few people actually building that, and those are very, very ambitious projects.
Very ambitious.
And they're beautiful and they're very interesting. So yeah.
Yeah, and then we move to co-cities and then co-countries.
Well, yeah, but that's what Plumia is doing, right? They're trying to.
Wait, sorry, what?
Do you know Plumia? So
No.
this is like a think tank that is part of Safety Wing, the insurance company.
I know them.
Yeah. So their idea is essentially recreating society from the ground up. So kind of the idea is to change from top-down institutions to bottom-up communities and create these larger cities and countries on the internet that once they grow big enough, they can actually gain legitimacy and and apply to be actual countries, etc. But this is a very, very, very far-reaching vision. But the idea is to create communities, cities, and countries united by shared ideals, ethics, and passions rather than geographical borders.
Oh, wow. And I also think the idea behind co-villages, for example, in my case, I always like building stuff and having tools to work with. And in the cities, right, everyone has their own set of tools, their own set of appliances, their own set of everything. And sometimes you don't need to have them,
Yeah.
right? And if in a co-village you have a specific place that is super well equipped, there's somebody there that works and that can teach you and that can show you around. Oh, that's the dream, right? Because it's also more eco-friendly, it sustains, it's more sustainable. That's the dream. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've actually been part of this kind of space for a short time in Philadelphia. Actually, when I was stuck in my parents' basement waiting for my Portuguese visa for 6 months, I was like, okay, what do I do? And I found a maker space. Forget the name of it. It was like quite a few years ago. But yeah, it's huge, industrial space. You have all of the tools, and you have some, workshops and classes to teach you how to do things. So I got into welding. There were woodworking classes, and you had all of the tools there. So you pay a membership fee, and you get to use all of these tools and all of the equipment and everything. Very cool. And yeah, having that for like regular like household things is amazing.
For cars as well.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, if we still fix cars, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't use cars. Most of the time it's parked, right? So yeah, it would be nice to have a fleet of cars, maybe to share around the eco-village in this case, no?
Yeah, well, there are schemes like that in the US. At least, well, I think a while ago there were. It never took off in Portugal. So car sharing never took off because I think in South Europe there's still this car ownership culture. Like the car is such a huge part of people's identities. It's really interesting. Yeah. So when I lived in New York, I ended up buying a car actually because I needed to reach my grandparents who were very old and very sick. And I tried car sharing, but logistically where they lived, like it didn't really work. But I did use that for like, trips away, etc. So car sharing is, at least in the US, and I think in major cities in Europe, is quite common. South Europe, people love to have their own car. It's a part of the Latin identity somehow.
Yeah, true. And the thing is that if everyone had this car sharing idea, then it would be way, way, way more effective. But since it's not maybe so popular, then it's more difficult to.
And I think we're also changing, right? Like in so many ways, like the older generations are retiring, the older ways of thinking are retiring. And I think the younger generations, people who are now in their 30s and are getting into positions of power, and they are building, big companies that matter, because power is now with brands. We are no longer living in the world where, well, I mean, governments, control us as citizens, but brands have an incredible amount of power to influence public opinion and to support values and ethics and things like that. And so as we see younger people and people who grow up in different kind of values kind of come into positions of power, I think the society will shift, to more sustainable models, for example.
Yeah, also out of necessity, right? Because now, like 20 years ago or 30, buying a house or buying a car was more or less an easy task, no?
Yeah,
Everyone could do it, right?
Yeah.
And now, since it's harder, then we are going to naturally move to these models of sharing, which to me, it will make more sense regardless, no? But it's interesting that since it's a necessity, then yeah, okay.
Yeah, and obviously the loneliness epidemic is very real. And I think as you said, through necessity, people come to the idea of co-living or some kind of a communal living. But once they're actually there, they see the real benefit or the main benefit, which is the connection, which is you're not coming home after work to an empty, dark house.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did that for years, and like it's not fun. You feel lonely. And, I lived in New York City most of my life. And you see your friends once in a while because everyone's busy. You make an appointment with, one of your closest friends 3 months in advance, So the way we live in cities in particular, and even in more rural areas, because we're so much of our lives are now happening online, and it's becoming more difficult to kind of like move around, or I don't know, I feel like we're really shifting, into our online worlds from the physical worlds. But that promotes loneliness, right? And feelings of isolation. And you cannot feel isolated and lonely when you come home and there's a kitchen and there's like a few people already making dinner. It's a completely different feeling than coming into your dark apartment and cooking dinner for one.
Yeah. Yeah, heating ramen in your microwave while you watch Netflix.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
the same
It's sad.
as,
Yeah, it's super sad.
yeah, I mean, sometimes we need our own time, which is also super necessary. But yeah, people underestimate the power of connection, I think.
Well, we've been raised in an individualistic society. And so I think we have shifted since Victorian times, essentially from Industrial Revolution, when people had to move to cities to make it to do work. Our homes and our households have shrunk. So in the past, before the Industrial Revolution, people lived in larger and multi-generation households. Once factories were created, people moved on their own, and then they found a partner in the city. And housing was scarce, housing was smaller. So that was when we shifted from a multi-generational to a single generational mode of living. And that's when kind of loneliness started to come, because until you found a partner, you were alone. And we've continued this way, and obviously, propagating values of individualism in individual success, and this whole myth of solo founder, which, I debunked through my own experience. It's much better to live and to build together. But we've been conditioned to be alone, essentially, for the last century. So we're unlearning now. We're unlearning, and we are relearning to be who we truly are, which is like communal, connected beings.
And biological organisms that crave social interaction, and they need nature.
Yeah, exactly.
We need nature, guys. We need nature. Step away from your keyboards right now. Go hug a tree.
Exactly.
I also wanted to ask you, what does co-living mean to you?
Oh, it's an interesting question, right? Because I started with the idea of how a building can support our human needs, but through this experience, it's really become a communal project for me. And so, this is why I'm doing this community round. So it means togetherness, it means connectedness, So really, this is why we're letting people in from like as little as $100, because I really want this to be a truly communal experience where many people feel like they're part of the project and they're part of the family. Yeah, I'm building a family for myself.
Oh, wow. And again, thanks, Melon, for sponsoring this episode. Actually, since you are going to build a co-living, will you be on Melon?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why is because this platform really showcases real co-living experiences and spaces. So not, some random hotel, hostel, Airbnb that wants to brand itself as a co-living, and then people end up being very disappointed, which I've seen with people using other co-living platforms. But MapMelon is really, it showcases real co-living projects, permanent spaces, workations, pop-ups. So we're really very much aligned in that mission.
Yeah, I think that's amazing because whenever I go to co-livings, I always ask people, right? And the word of mouth for me it's super important because then I know that the co-livings that I'm going to go with are aligned with my values.
Yeah.
And I feel like MapMelon is the word of mouth platform.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's super cool.
Well, it's built, by nomads for nomads.
Yeah,
So
of course.
yeah.
Absolutely. Anything else you might want to mention?
No, no, that's it. Thank you so much for having me
Yeah,
on. I
okay.
appreciate it. It was a really cool
Yeah.
conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kate, for being in this episode. Make sure to follow the AOMA project. Make sure if you are feeling like you want to invest in this amazing, eco-luxurious, eco-positive co-living in Ericeira, which sounds super nice. And make sure to follow Kate on social media. Where can people find you?
Instagram, LinkedIn. So it's ioma.coliving on Instagram, ioma coliving on LinkedIn, and our website is ioma.co.
Well, it's perfect. Very on brand as well. Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for listening to this episode of Colivers Club, powered by MapMelon. Bye.
Thank you.